zou jij geluid van mij moeten krijgen? Hé, waarom heb ik hem... Jij moet nu geluid van mij hebben. Hé. Ja, kom ik binnen bij jou? Oké, beeld heb je ook nog steeds? Oké, nou dan gooi ik deze weer dicht. Dan gaan we zo meteen beginnen. Yes? Oké, yo, hoi.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Today is all about connections, connecting with new information, connecting mostly with new people. And today's speaker of this session, Nick Adkins, is all into connections. Telemedicine, e-health, digital health is all about connections. He's going to be talking to us about that, discussing with us. So if you have any questions, you can fire away, or if you prefer at the end, I don't know.
Yeah. We'll wait till the end.
We'll wait to the end.
We'll just wing it. We're going to make this up as we go. So.
This is a, well, maybe second in a lifetime opportunity, because a few weeks ago you were in Nijmegen discussing this same topic. This is your last chance to discuss telemedicine with someone, one from the United States. So take it away. There you go, Nick.
Okay. Thanks, Jaco. Can everyone hear me all right? Yes? I'm probably just going to stay down here if that's all right. Yeah? Because the stage feels a little weird. Thank you for coming. I know it's late in the afternoon. And, okay, so we've got an hour. So we're going to slow this way down, right? So in Nijmegen, I only had 8 minutes. It was a TED style talk, so it's like fast, super fast, like, oh. And I was having to rush. So today we don't have that problem, so we can just take it nice and easy. We'll ask some questions at the end. If you've got something that you just can't, you're just about to lose your shit over, go ahead and stop. Let's get it. We'll talk about it right then. I'm going to tell you just a few little things about me, answer some questions. We're going to talk about some strange things today. We're going to get ourselves into telemedicine eventually, but we're going to talk about these pink socks. We're going to talk about Burning Man. We're going to talk about NASA and rocket ships and astronauts. And then we're going to talk about telemedicine and how that all comes together in some weird story that you're all part of now. And I mean, you could leave if you wanted, but you're not here against your will. So, my name is Nick. I live in Portland, Oregon. That's on the West Coast in the US. And I'm the co-founder of a company that created some really cool technology, an open API around asynchronous or store and forward video management. I'll get more into that, what that is later. This is my Twitter handle. I hope you're on Twitter because some really cool stuff happens on Twitter. It's like the place to be for getting information, especially in healthcare, digital health, mobile health, telehealth. You can find some really good conversations about things that are happening today. Very innovative stuff happening all around the world, but specifically, that's coming out of San Francisco and the Bay Area and some other hubs for innovation, like Nijmegen, right, at Redboud and Reshape. Okay, so I didn't always look like this. This is what you're thinking. Once upon a time, I looked like that. And so that's me in 1995. I was a healthcare executive at the Vanderbilt Health Plans in Nashville. I was a coat and tie guy. And I had this friend who called me up, lived in San Diego, and said, hey, have you ever heard of this thing called Burning Man? And I'm like, no, He goes, well, let's go to it. And I'm like, okay, what is it? And so Al Gore had recently invented the internet, so there wasn't a whole lot of information online about Burning Man on the internet. So I looked it up, and it just couldn't really go. Timing wasn't right in life. It's a week-long event in the desert, in the middle of Nevada, in the middle of nowhere. And timing just wasn't right in life to go then. So fast forward about 10 years, and same friend calls me up. Now there's a whole bunch of stuff on the internet about Burning Man. So I jump in there, look it up, say, yeah, let's go do this thing. And so we went to Burning Man. And Burning Man it's 70,000 people in the desert for a week. And people go there for all kinds of different reasons. Some people go for the party, some people go for the music, some people go for the art. 70,000 people having 70,000 unique experiences, all in one place. And I went really to disconnect. right? Just to unplug, to not be that suit and tie, guy. I wanted to just kind of let go and unplug, give myself that space for a week. And what I found in that week was some really awesome people who were living in heart space. This pure, honest space without any fear, any construct of judgment or prejudice or fear, but people that could share their lives and their heart speak with you in a very beautiful way, right? In a very non-judgmental way. This guy became my best friend. He went to Burning Man for his first time in 2010, and he's from Tampa, Florida. He's a retired art professor. He went to Burning Man at 72 for the first time. It's by himself all the way from Tampa to Nevada, because he had all of these students through the years coming back and tell him, say, Professor, you should go to Burning Man. As much creative design as you teach, there's some beautiful art out there, you should go. And so he got a cancer diagnosis, and he just said, bucket list, man, I'm going to Burning Man. So he comes rolling into the desert by himself with a cancer diagnosis. Even though his doctor told him he shouldn't go, he went. And his name is Dick Patterson. And Dick and I became really, really close friends because of our connection we had at Burning Man. And we've kept that connection. We've gone back to Burning Man several years and camped and shared Christmases together and traveled back and forth from Tampa to Portland and shared time with each other's families. All because of a connection that we had, in the desert. And so these pink socks, you may have seen, some of you even have the pink socks, right? Around here, I see some, yeah? And so if you go to pinksocks.life, it'll tell you the full story about it. But the pink socks really are born from one of the principles at Burning Man. So at Burning Man, for 1 week of the year, it becomes the 5th largest city in the state of Nevada, right? 70,000 people gather in one space, and it's self-governed by these 10 principles as a city. Principles like radical self-expression, leave no trace, and gifting. That's really my favorite. And so gifting at Burning Man is, I'm going to give you a back rub. I'm going to give you some fresh water. I'm going to give you a cold beer. I'm going to give you a bracelet that I made or a necklace. It could be anything, right? But it's not gifting like we think of here. Normally, if I give you a gift, your first reaction back is, well, I need to give you something. There needs to be some quid pro quo, some tit for tat. True gifting is you're simply accepting my gift, just saying yes. And so there's a lot of people that have these pink socks now around the world, thousands, that have had a moment of connection where in our busy lives at conferences or wherever we've met, we've stopped, we've looked at each other, as we all are right now, and we're having a connection. And I'm smiling, and I see you, I see you, I see you, I see you, I see you. Yeah? And that connection, that moment, even though it's brief, is really what it's all about in digital health, mobile health, telehealth. All the technology that we're rolling out, it's all about that connection. It's the thing that we crave as humans, right? It's hardwired into our DNA. We crave connection. And so for me, people say, what are the pink socks all about? Well, for everyone, the thousands of people that have the socks, they mean something unique to each of them, just like Burning Man. 70,000 people having 70,000 unique experiences. You can ask her what those socks mean to her. They may mean something different. But for me, my experience is it's an artifact, reminder of once upon a time, I had a moment, I had a connection with someone that was shared, a smile, a conversation. And again, that's a lot like what we're trying to do in healthcare. And I'm going to get into that with telemedicine here in a minute. One of the connections that I've been able to make through the pink socks was this guy. And his name is John McBride. He's an astronaut. He was a pilot on the Atlantis space shuttle for NASA on 2 separate missions. In fact, he piloted the mission that flew the Hubble Space Telescope up to space. It was his mission that deployed the Hubble. His son is a CEO of a company in the United States, and his son had met me, got the pink socks, and month later, he says, "You know my dad's an astronaut, right?" I said, "No." He goes, "Well, have you ever been to Cape Canaveral in Florida? He'd love to give you a tour of NASA and of the space shuttle, because they have the Atlantis on exhibit now." And I'm like, "No, sure, I definitely would love to go see the space shuttle, from an astronaut's perspective, right?" So Captain McBride invited me to Florida, just outside of Orlando, Cape Canaveral, and I went, and there's a space shuttle he flew. I mean, that's actually the Atlantis. It's not a model or replica, that's actually it, and so we're getting to see the belly of it, and he's telling me all these stories about flying it and, all the gear. But what was more important for me that day was not seeing the gear. Yeah, the equipment was awesome, the shuttle itself, she was awesome, but listening to Captain McBride tell his stories of space. Me being able to ask him, "Hey, what was it like that first time that you flew up and looked back at Earth for the first time? Tell me what that was like." And so to share space, to have a connection with a man who told me the story. He's, we're standing at the space shuttle thing, and he's reenacting like it's happening, and he's like, "I get out of the seat, I float over to these controls, I'm going, 2 feet per second, counting down." He goes, "And then I look out the bay window where the Hubble telescope is in the bay, and those bay doors open, and I look out this little window right here, and I'm looking out the window with him." And he says, "And then I look down, and we're over Australia." And, he's telling me that and sharing that energy of that moment in time when he saw Earth for the first time from space. And he's tearing up. I could feel it. I'm tearing up, And so sharing that story with Captain McBride was way more special to me than actually seeing all the gear, right? What are we trying to do in healthcare? We're trying to share a story, right? A life story. And we're trying to do it at scale with a lot of people. And how do we share in that story and not lose the heart speak, not lose the emotion, not lose the connection with another human? And so that's what we want to talk about a little with telemedicine. Oh yeah, I threw this in. So I'm probably going to say the name wrong. Is it Van Helst, the artist? Anybody know? This was at the Rijksmuseum yesterday.
I guess.
Something. Any art aficionados here? Something the Lieutenant's Watch or something. So there was the Night Watch was right across, and then this was on like the other wall. Anybody? Anyway, I sat there and I looked at, there was like a bench right here, and I could sit, and I was looking at this thing. I couldn't even get the whole painting in here, but if next time you're at the Rijks, or go online, look at this painting. There's over 20 people in that painting. And so the guy painted it in the 1600s. I'm no art major, so I'm killing this. But apparently none of you are either, so nobody knows, so I can make this shit up. There's over 20 people in this painting. And so think about it, 1600. There were no iPhones. There's no like, oh, let me take a picture of you people, and then I'll go back and draw it and I'll paint it later. The artist is having to reproduce this giant, it's huge, this giant portrait, and I can't think that he made all of those people stand there and pose, right? So he had to kind of paint this from, okay, I'm going to see these people, and then I'm not going to see them, right? So, if I ask anybody in here, where the little boy in the red coat was? Could you tell me? No? Okay, let's look again. Get ready, go. Do you remember what it was? Did you see him then? He's in a red coat. He's right in the middle. Yeah? See, off to the middle, there's a little black boy right here in a red coat. Now, think about what your doctor has to do every time you go see him or her. Right? With technology, she has to have a snapshot of your whole life, of what's happened to you since the last time you saw her a year ago. And you've got 15 minutes at best to try to get your story in and tell her or him what's happened in your life and why you're at the doctor's office today. She has to have a painting of your life, an understanding, a portrait, to help her have this image of how you are and where you need to go or where you want to go, right? So, digital health. There's a bunch of stuff, right? You've seen some cool stuff already today, right? You'll see some more fun stuff tomorrow and the next day. I like to think of digital health as like this big umbrella and things are under it. So there's digital health, then there's mobile health. Those are mobile apps. There's wearables. That's also digital health. There's telehealth, telemedicine. That's digital health. That falls under that umbrella. There's all of these things in that digital health ecosystem. And there's a lot of stuff, right? And so what I'm going to focus on is the telehealth or telemedicine. And I'm going to use those words interchangeably. You know, we can get into the definitions and semantics of telehealth, telemedicine. But for me and the purposes of this talk, we're just going to say they're synonymous, okay? There's a bunch of telemedicine providers in the United States. And so I've kind of picked out some of my faves. You probably recognize some of the names, maybe. I mean, Philips, probably, right? Yeah, so, but are you familiar with the other ones? Raise your hand if you've heard of Doctor on Demand. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4? Okay. Phil Bunting, so raise your hand, yeah. Okay, so that's a great one to pick on then for the moment. Don't worry that you haven't heard of Doctor on Demand, because a lot of people in America haven't heard of it either, and that's a shame. To me, it's probably one of the sexiest direct-to-the-consumer apps out there. It's basically FaceTime on your phone, on your computer, talk to a doctor anytime you want, stay home in your jammy pants. You don't even need insurance. The first visit's free, I think. After that, it's $40. Just put your credit card information in. And think about that. Think of the convenience of that for a moment. And let's say you live in a big town like this, in Amsterdam. Or let's say you live outside of Amsterdam and your doctor's in the center here, but you live in a little town outside of Amsterdam and you get sick and you're like, oh man, I've got to go to the doctor, and now I've got to get out of bed. I feel bad already. I've got to drive in traffic. Or ride my bike in traffic. I feel awful. And then you get to the doctor's office, and then the lobby is full of crying, sick babies and coughing people that they feel bad too, and now you really feel bad. And then you finally see the doctor, and you've only got a few minutes with them because they're doing this, typing into their EHR. They're not even really looking at you. And the whole time, all you want is the prescription so you can go down to the drugstore and get these pills so you can feel better. But then you have to go to the drugstore, and then you've got to go in the traffic and go all the way home again. That's ridiculous. That is, right? I mean, but that's what we're doing today. That's how we go see the doctor. All of these companies have solutions where you could stay home in your jammy pants, in your pajamas. You don't even have to leave the house, right? You get your phone or your computer, and I'm going to go back to this Doctor on Demand because I like them. They're kind of my favorites. And they're well funded. raised a lot of money. Everybody know Dr. Phil on the American TV, Dr. Phil? Okay, so his son, Adam, is the CEO of this company, Dr. on Demand. Dr. on Demand's based in San Francisco, which is where all the healthcare stuff has to be out of. So Dr. Phil's son is the CEO. Sir Richard Branson, that guy, he's an investor in Dr. on Demand. So Sir Richard Branson's got his money in there. And Dr. Phil, on just about every Dr. Phil show, he talks about Dr. on Demand. So they get free advertising on the Dr. Phil show. I mean, it can't get any better than that, right? Free advertising in Dr. Phil, Sir Richard Branson's money, a very cool app. Okay, you've never heard of it. 3 people in here have heard of it. Okay, no big deal. We're in Amsterdam. Okay, I routinely travel throughout the U.S. weekly, all right? And I'm in San Francisco probably twice a month. Right, Bill? What'd you say? I mean, Bill and I both travel a lot in the U.S., and so I have this little test that I do every time I'm in San Francisco for sure, right? And so you have Uber or Lyft here? Uber, Lyft, car riding share? I like Lyft, but they're kind of the same thing. So every time I'm in San Francisco, I take Lyft, and these are drivers that, they're in their 20s and 30s, they got cool cars, they definitely know how to use their phones. I mean, these are hip. And Dr. on Demand is headquartered in San Francisco. It's a hometown company. I always ask my Lyft driver, because they say, hey, what do you do? And I say, well, I'm in this health tech company in Portland. I always ask them, have you heard of Dr. on Demand? I tell them it's this cool thing, you can stay home in your jammy pants when you're sick. You don't have to go to the doctor. 9 times out of 10 in San Francisco, no one's heard of Dr. on Demand. What? Help me, right? Bill, I don't know, what, $90 million they've raised something? I don't know. Look it up, TechCrunch it. They've raised a lot of money. They're really good. They're great people. Dr. Phil talks about it, but no one has heard of it. And that's the problem. That's the problem with a lot of technology in the US, and it's a problem with a lot of technology in Amsterdam, and a lot of technology in Nijmegen, at Reshape and Radboud, or any, Eindhoven, or any other innovation center you want to pick here in the Netherlands. No one knows about it. Okay? And so we have to change that. And we can come to these conferences, and all of us now know about the cool stuff. But when you go home, you got to tell people. You got to say, look, I went to this conference, and I learned all of this stuff. I saw this cool stuff. It's out there. You need to know about this. You need to start a conversation with your doctor, right? Open up the dialogue. You have fax machines over here? Fax, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so who uses a fax machine anymore, really, besides doctors? Do you have a personal fax machine at your house? Raise your hand if you have a personal fax machine at your house. Thank you, 1 person, 2 people, right, okay. But that's the way that most doctors want to communicate with us, is by fax. I don't have a fax machine, please. Okay, but what I do have, and what most of all of you have, right? Yeah. And guess what? Your doctor has the same thing. Boops, yeah. So why don't we use these to communicate with our doctor just like we do with our normal, everyday people in our lives? Why are we still being held hostage to the ball and chain of a fax machine when all of the cool technology exists? It's almost shameful, isn't it? Yeah? All of the millions of dollars in innovation and technology that have been pumped in, and we can't get doctors and hospitals to use this. when there's a lot of technology available to do it, okay? So, all of us are going to change that, right? Because we're now part of the discussion, part of the leaving here and going home and telling people about the revolution, right? Okay. Some other companies there, and I put their Twitter handles on there too, if you want to follow those folks on Twitter, good ones to follow and keep up with. All of those are great companies. I mean, Get Pagers out of New York, and they've recently launched their own telemedicine product. Pager started out as house calls. So basically like Uber for a doctor, but it's based in New York right now, just only in the New York area. But they've decided they would open up and have their own telemedicine platform as well. So one to watch, definitely, is, and their Twitter handle is Get Pager. Okay, so traditional telemedicine, of how it's being used today. So raise your hand if you've ever done telemedicine with your doctor. Are you looking around just to see this? Come on, man, right? Okay. Is it weird? Okay, so now let's raise your hand if with a friend or your kids or somebody in your family or anybody that you've ever done FaceTime or Skype or a Google Hangout. Now look around. Everybody. Hey, shame on all of us, right, for accepting the status quo, for not saying enough, okay? The tools exist for us to communicate with our doctors. So I need you to see right now this, I've got this rash, or I need you to listen to this cough, listen to it. Things that, I can't define in an email or through a patient portal, who likes those? Safe, secure ways to stay home and talk to your doctor. I mean, there's a great company that does interpretation, translation services. They have these units in over 500 hospitals in the United States where they basically have a unit like this in every emergency department. So the patient shows up, speaks a foreign language, no problem. They've got translators 24/7 covering over 200 different languages that the doctor or the nurse can right there and have a live interpreter talk to the family of the patient with the doctor all in the same room. Why not? Okay? Yeah. I mean, remote care, where there's a doctor who may be a junior doctor who needs the advice of a senior doctor who's in another city at another hospital. And I'm out here remote and I need your help, I need your advice. Telemedicine, right? Great use case for telemedicine. There's a hospital in the US, there's a system called Mercy. They're based out of St. Louis. And last year, they opened the first virtual hospital in the United States, okay? It's a whole hospital building without any beds. It's all virtual. It's a giant telecommand center staffed by doctors, general practitioners, specialists, nurses, social workers, psychiatrists, psychologists, all caregivers across the spectrum, delivering care using telemedicine across a multiple state area, not just in St. Louis and Missouri, but their footprint covers multiple states. If they need to send a helicopter out to the patient to go get them and bring them to one of these hospitals, yes, they can. If they need to dispatch a caregiver to go to the home, they can. The convenience of being able to monitor all of these patients remotely from one command center, this virtual hospital, I think we're going to see more of that, yeah? And if you listen to people who are in the design business here, in real estate and architecture, they're going to talk about redesigning what the hospital of the future looks like. And the hospital of the future, hospital today, there's a whole lot less bedrooms. There's a lot less rooms. And those rooms they become nicer. Yeah? So hat tip to stop by the Philips booth and talk to them at some partner companies around the world at hospitals where they've redesigned the whole patient experience. Speaking of Philips, and this is my favorite use case for telemedicine. There's a hospital system in the US called Banner, and they're based in Arizona. And again, they have a multi-state footprint, but they're headquartered in Arizona. Philips has partnered with the Banner Health System, and they've just released a 3-year study about how they can monitor and track and improve the lives of people who are digitally connected to their care team, right? And digital connection can be from wearables to blood pressure cuffs to the scale to their diabetes unit to measure blood glucose to sitting down and having a telehealth session. And so this is a real couple in Arizona there. And their name's Helen and Ralph. And I watched this video. We're going to show this video. If you haven't seen it, you're in for a treat, I hope. If you have seen it, watch it again, because I watch it at least once a day. And I'm not joking. Every time I feel kind of like depressed and fed up over the fax machine bullshit, I go watch this video. Because to me, Helen and Ralph and how they're living their lives, this proves that it works. That technology, all the stuff that we're talking about is actually being done at this facility with these real people, not actors, right? And so before we start the video, I want you to think, and this is the reality, right? We say we're doing all of this cool technology that, we're designing this to take care of mom or dad or maybe the grandparents. Yeah, we're really doing this. This is beta for technology that's going to take care of us, yeah? And so mom, dad, grandparents right now, they're our beta. And the good news is there's awesome technology that's readily available today that can be used, which we're going to see some of this in the video. And that means that the stuff that when we're going to need it, it's going to be so awesome that we're living in great times. So those days of having to think that being scared of being disconnected and disjointed from our care team and our family and no one taking care of me and I'm all alone in this, those days are over. And you need to spread the message again, right? You got to get out there and, more than likely, a lot of your doctors aren't even aware of some of this technology that's being used, okay? So can you show that video? Let's pause the... Then you need to go back.
I'm here with Dr. Reed Tuckson, president of the American Telemedicine Association.
You need to go back.
Here with our executive therapy series. And
to the video before that. To the page before that.
hi, I'm here with Dr. Reed Tuckson.
To the page before that one. Yeah, so hit that blue arrow, yeah. Nope, go again. Twice. Or just close that and go to the link that was in the original link. Close that one and, yeah. All right. This is worth it. We're going to sit through this because you need to see this. Okay. Okay, well, let's start it over. That's good. This is Helen and Ralph.
our grandchildren come over here once a week. We have a couple of good friends that we like very much.
In our age group, these are the things that are important.
When we first met, he was just a friend, nothing serious. He took me to a football game and gave me my first kiss.
Don't go overboard now.
Without communication, Ralph and I could have never survived the 64 years.
We know that the top 5% of patients in any system use a lot of resources, time, money, people, you name it. Philips and Banner are partnering to take care of the sickest of the ambulatory patients. We hope that we will be able to provide the support that they need to allow them to continue to live out their days at home.
Ralph's not very good at taking his own blood pressure, so I take his blood pressure every morning, but he gets on the scale, weighs himself. And then he goes to his little video. I'll learn to say tablet one of these days. At first, we were a little hesitant about all of this equipment, but as it was explained to us by people from Banner Eye Care and from Philips, we reached a point where we felt comfortable with it. Today, I would be lost without it. I'm just happy to be home with Ralph. To be able to talk to a doctor on a video, and we don't have to wait 2 or 3 days for a doctor appointment. It's fabulous. If I have an emergency, all I do is push a button. There's somebody at Banner Eye Care there for me immediately. Dr. Perrin called us today on our tablet. How are you? Oh, we're doing very well. He wanted to know how we felt, and he recommended a couple of things. I mean, this is the kind of care that Ralph and I have never had. I mean, it's amazing.
This is the future. It's really an amazing model of care that doesn't exist anywhere else yet. When I have a team of people augmented by a lot of Philips technology, I can catch things earlier, treat things earlier, and intervene in a way that allows me to accomplish what I set out to do as a geriatrician, and then ultimately do some good in these patients' lives.
I'm just thankful that we joined Banner Eye Care and that we have Philips equipment here. We're married 64 years. I can't say we'll have 64 more years.
We're trying.
Well, we're trying.
Innovation and you. Philips.
Mic on? Can you hear me? Yeah? I mean, that's how we want to go into the sunset, you know, living at home like that, gracefully, aging in place. So if you can go back to the slides real quick. Now, okay, so all of these examples that we've talked about telemedicine are what we call synchronous or real time. It's live. What we're doing right now is synchronous. It's a live moment. It's a live interaction. When you do texting or Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook or email, that's all asynchronous, right? Oops. What, was I hitting all those? No, just go back to, well, let's just start there. I like that one. Yeah, okay, so here, let's get right to there. Yeah. So texting and all that stuff, email, is asynchronous, right? It's after the fact. And so much like when Al Gore invented the internet, and then we have email was born, email allowed the world to communicate en masse, at scale, asynchronously. And so right now, we live in a very video world, okay? Every minute, there's 500 hours of YouTube video uploaded to YouTube. Around the world, people are uploading 500 hours worth of video stuff per minute. Every minute. So that's a lot of video. And if you think about, remember the painting that none of us were smart enough to pass the art history test, that I looked at the Rijksmuseum? Do you remember the contextual richness in that picture? Or any awesome painting, you know, what your favorite, think of in your mind, of any of your favorite museums or maybe pieces you have at home? The contextual richness of a picture and what that conveys. Okay, well, a video file is a picture file, but a video file creates 32 pictures per second. So a lot of data, a lot of contextual richness in video. So what if we could create secure, stored, and shared, or secure asynchronous video? What if we could do the one thing that we really can't do as doctors or clinicians or caregivers right now, which is increase our throughput? We can't add more time to the day. But what if I could use telemedicine asynchronously, record it, share it, watch it later, maybe view a snippet of it while I'm at the kids' soccer match, I'm waiting at the coffee shop, I'm standing in line for my dry cleaners. I could do things asynchronously, then I could increase my throughput. I can get more done with the same amount of time. It's exactly what we're doing with email and texting and everything else in our lives. So why can't we create a technology that allows anyone who wants to securely capture a video file, record it, store it, and then share it? What if we could do that? So we created an API that does that. And any developer inside their app that wants to add the feature set or the functionality of, we want to take this video file and make it safe, our API does that. And so the way that I explain what this does is, if you think of Star Trek, so every time, and we're going to think of the Away Shuttle as the video file. If you remember in Star Trek, every time the Away Shuttle goes down to a planet and back, it's always inside the tractor beam to keep it safe, because you don't want the Klingons out there shooting the Away Shuttle, right? It needs to be safe in the tractor beam. The API is the tractor beam. It's keeping the video file safe at transit and at rest. And so that's, what could you do with asynchronous telemedicine? And so this is just basically some standard language that's showing up a lot in the United States around legislation, specifically regarding reimbursement for telemedicine. Basically saying it's okay to use asynchronous or store and forward technology. And so now doctors are able to get paid to see you asynchronously. Not only can they get paid and reimbursed to do a live visit, but now they can also record, share, watch that, and still get paid for it. And they can get a lot more done in their day. And it's more convenient, right? I can't really see you right now because I'm busy saving these other lives, or I can't really see you right now because I'm busy saving my daughter from flushing something down the toilet. I'm a little busy right now, but I could do this when it's more convenient. And that's what asynchronous is, right? The ability to do these things safely. Use cases for asynchronous. And so, well, how would you use that? Well, the easy one that we're seeing is discharge instructions, right? You're in the hospital, you've had surgery, you're ready to get out of there, go home, you can't wait to get out. But they're going to give you some instructions of things that they want you to do so that you don't come back. We don't want you to be readmitted to the hospital, so we want you to follow these instructions. You're not going to remember the instructions because you're probably still high on drugs, you're sedated, you've got amnesia from some of these drugs. You're just not going to remember it. Even your family that's around with you trying to take notes and asking questions from the doctor, they're not going to remember because everyone's ready to go home. So if you could say, look, I know you're ready to get out of here, but we're going to record. I'm going to record what I'm about to tell you, okay? And you can watch this later when you get home. You can review it with your family. You can watch as many times as you want. But this file is safe. It's in a tractor beam, like Star Trek. And it's not going to be able to go anywhere besides us, okay? It won't play on YouTube. You can't take it and force it into a player on Vimeo. It won't play. You can't send it to him. It will not play. It's only going to play for the people that we, me, the doctor, and the patient, say get to see it. So if you say, I want my brothers and sisters to be able to see this because they're going to help take care of me, then we put your brothers and sisters on there, and they're able to watch it on their phone, but nobody else gets to see it. But everybody gets to take care of you because they're on your care team. That's an awesome classic example of how to use asynchronous telemedicine as a use case. Discharge instructions. Lots of people, right, need to know about your care, not just you. Your doctor needs to know. Maybe you have multiple doctors. They all need to be on the same page. Like I said, your brothers and sisters maybe want to know. You may have a social worker or a psychiatrist, psychologist, people that you want to share, but only those people get to see it. Think like Snapchat for healthcare, but with videos. Okay, so I'm going to have this one little story, and then we're going to do some questions. And so what I want you to envision is, and you can insert your own self in this story somewhere, probably. But, imagine, I live in Portland, Oregon. I have a daughter who goes to college across the country in Tennessee, okay? I get a call that she's been hospitalized. Yeah, that she's in some dark hospital room and I can't get a hold of her. Yeah, and I'm 2,500 miles away. I'm going to have to catch the next flight tomorrow because I can't get out soon enough. So I'm going to spend this whole night not really being able to see her, not knowing what's happening, not even being able to talk to the doctor, being really scared and afraid. And so is she, because we're disconnected. And we're living in that space of the not knowing. And that's a terrible place for any of us to be in because, again, we all want to be connected, and we especially want to be connected with people in our family. And when we find ourselves in a situation, in that worst case situation where a family member is in the hospital and you are not connected, it's terrible. It's a terrible place to be. Why not use telemedicine to say, hey, I'm okay. Your daughter is fine. I'm her doctor. She's right here. She'll be here tomorrow when you get here. Everything's going to be okay. The technology exists for us to do that. Nobody has to go buy a robot to do this. We've all got our phones. Okay? Secure video files can be shared like that so that everybody is like this. Yeah. We can do this. We all have the technology to be connected, to not be afraid. We just have to use it. Okay? So we have to know that it exists, and we have to use it. And you all know it exists now. So it's your charge to go talk about it, right? So any questions about anything I've said, any about telemedicine or digital health or anything? Pink socks? Burning Man? Astronauts? Hello.
Do you have any thoughts on how telemedicine, telehealth can be used in the mental health aspect?
Absolutely. And so that's a great question. So how to use telehealth in the mental health arena. One of the big early use cases that's popping up in the US is mental health, behavioral health, right? Think about, interactions between a social worker or a psychologist, a psychiatrist. These are typically encounters, office visits, that are no-touch encounters, right? They're not touching you. They're not physically laying their hands on you. They're not taking they're not palpating you in any way. It's basically come sit down or lay down and tell me your story. Let's have, they're not, I kind of joke. I said, if you need to go to the hospital, if you can't use telemedicine, if you feel like you've got to go to the emergency room, there better be an axe sticking out of your head or an arrow in your back. There needs to be something that a doctor has to touch you and grab you and say, let's fix this now. I need to get this out. Otherwise, telemedicine is probably a really good first step to triage that. The doctor can look and say, hey, you don't need to come in, you need to do this. Or, oh yeah, we do need you to come in. Behavioral health, mental health is one of those things where rarely you're touched. It's just, I need to see you. I need to visualize your affect, your facial expressions, right? See your quirks, hear your voice, right? And skilled mental health providers are trained in the visual affect and the audible acuity of how people are communicating. So, yes, mental health, behavioral health is a huge, huge application for telehealth. And to even tweak that even further, there's a cool company out of Pittsburgh. I do some work with Carnegie Mellon University. There's a group out of Carnegie Mellon called Faciometrics. You've never heard of because it's the coolest stuff ever. But it's a bunch of academic guys in a lab that came up with some algorithm at Carnegie Mellon that allows your phone or your computer with the onboard cam to read your face. It's plotting little lasers out of the camera hole on your computer without you even kind of knowing it. And it's reading your affect. And it's learning using AI, some deep machine learning, cognitive computing. It's against a known database of affects, and it's learning your affect. So it can do some predictive analysis. Like it can say, oh, I think you're depressed, or you're about to have an episode, or, oh, you're not taking your Ritalin. You're selling your drugs at school instead of taking them. And so the kid can do a little selfie video check-in with a mobile app, answer a few questions about how they feel about school today, and using Faciometrics algorithm embedded behind the scenes in that app, the computer is reading the kid's face. And then if it says, oh, something's wrong, an alert then gets pushed to the doctor. The doctor comes and actually watches it and says, oh yeah, I think that kid, I need you to come in and see me. I mean, again, this is not 300 years away in Star Trek. This is today. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very interesting about the facial metrics. Is it already used in dysfunctional families where there is abuse or alcohol abuse or these things, and there is pure care?
So the question is Faciometrics already being deployed in family settings? And so so the answer is, with Faciometrics, no. Faciometrics, their first deployments, oddly enough, surprising, shocking, was the Department of Defense. Yeah. And then the second commercialization for their algorithm was in the cosmetics industry. Yeah, mapping and reading women's faces for makeup application. And so they're just now starting to think, how do we commercialize this and get it into healthcare? And they're using behavioral health, mental health as one of their first use cases, platforms into getting, and one of those apps I'm talking about, that's a specific use case, monitoring kids on different highly powerful mind-altering drugs. Because the dosage is extremely important on a lot of the psychotropic drugs that, depending on too much or too little, it can totally throw off your day. And a trained psychiatrist can tell just by very briefly, quickly seeing the patient where they are on that scale, whether their meds need to go up or down. So, this is brand new cutting edge stuff that we're going to see. And there's another company I can't think of that's already out trying to compete with Faciometrics, that you're going to see more technology using, cool APIs like that. And that's the whole deal, right? It's an open API, much like the API that we created. It's an open API. You create whatever cool app or software you want and just plug in that feature set. If you say, oh, I want secure video, great, let's plug in that API. Oh, I want affect analysis, let's plug in that API, if I want this. And you're not having to reinvent the wheel every time to build out a cool product or app that has a lot of fun, feature sets. You use APIs as a developer in your toolkit to add all those functions. Yes.
So in consumables, the 3D cameras are starting to become more and more common. Can you see any thoughts on that?
3D cameras?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In consumables, stuff.
Yeah, in
Which
fact.
is great for telehealth.
Absolutely. So stop by, again, I'm a big fan of Philips because they're just doing awesome stuff, right? And stop by their booth while you're here and see what they're doing specifically with a project with HoloLens, yeah? And it's total immersive virtual reality, augmented reality using a 3D visual experience plus a headset for sound. Completely, and I've seen some people tweet it today even that have stopped by and gotten their minds blown already from the demo. And this isn't cartoon stuff. It doesn't look like you're in a game. It's not avatar based. It's real video of, I'm in the patient's house, sitting here having a conversation with the patients, in their living room on their sofa. I'm in the hospital room. Here's the patient in the hospital bed. I'm in the OR doing surgery. Right here, and you look around, and you're totally immersed in that visual experience of being there. So, it's going to completely shift the way medical education is done. Completely. Training new doctors, it's all going to be VR. Not all, but just think about how much can be, right? Remote care, again, having a remote physician show up into the surgery room even though that remote physician is 5,000 miles away and it's actually in a VR room. It's cool stuff. Again, today, not 300 years in the future. Yes?
I worked in the field of telemedicine for the past 14 years, so I've seen the involvement of it as well.
Okay.
Lots of comments. We have 3D cameras in Denmark that monitors ulcers.
Can we hear her? Here, there's a... Check. Yeah.
Christina Wanscher, region of southern Denmark. I worked in the field of telemedicine for the past 14 years. I've seen the development as well. We have 3D cameras that we use for the treatment of ulcers for diabetic people, so you can see the progression of it. Regarding the teleinterpretation, we fully rolled it out in the region of southern Denmark at relevant hospital departments. It took 4 years, which is extremely fast in the Danish healthcare system. Normally, it takes 10 years. So I'm just asking you, now we have a huge debate that telemedicine at scientific studies showed it actually killed people. Other people also say that it's very expensive to roll this out in our healthcare system. So what would be your advice to us saying you need to do this faster, technology is moving fast? So what's your advice?
Yeah.
Going from 10 years to 4 years to 2 years' time.
Yeah, and
thank you.
Right, thank you. And technology is moving so fast, right? That it used to be the thing was every 2 years, the speed and power is doubling every 2 years. Moore's law. Well, I think we've already passed that. Moore's law is kind of in the rearview mirror now. Things are going so fast and getting more powerful quicker than every 2 years. And I'm going to come back to we've all got these phones in our pocket. And, a lot of hospitals have invested a lot of money in a lot of robots, and still will. It's good stuff for robots. But we all have technology in our pockets today to do telehealth. Nobody has to go buy any special gear. Mom and dad don't need to buy new gear. You don't need to buy new gear. The hospital doesn't need to buy. It's all in our pockets right now. And I think that cell cycle, that adoption cycle, is going to get faster and faster and faster. That company that was Landmarty that you saw the translation screen, their typical cell cycle into a large U.S. hospital system now is at 6 months. And that used to be, a 2-year cell cycle from introduction. And so they're able to get in now and within 6 months go from, introduction to to deployment, which is pretty fast in a hospital system. A lot of times it can take a year just to get approved to give yourself, to be part of an RFP in a system. So their ability to expedite that and go from introduction to deployment in 6 months is, I think, speaks to how fast systems are wanting to deploy technology, specifically telehealth and telemedicine. I mean, they're catching up, right? I mean, the hospitals are having to play catch up with the rest of us. We're not going to stop using our phones. We're not all going to go out and buy a fax machine. The hospitals have learned that, guess what? The consumers, us, we're driving the bus now. Yeah, and if you want us to use your system, you're going to meet us and engage with us on terms that we want to use. And I want to use my phone. And I like this app. So what does your app look like? Because if I don't like yours, I like that one. And they'll get my money, right? So it's, the competition among systems to provide care that comes to you is what's happening. You're not going to care. Care is coming to you. And it's all happening via your phone. Anything else? Yeah? All right. Thank you. Thanks for coming. We're going to go make some gin. So, right? Some Dutch gin? Some what? We're going to go make some of that. And I'm going to test it. I'm the official tester.